afternoon, everyone. Welcome for those that are just joining. So my name's Laura and I am going to be your host for the event today. Some of you may have already joined some of our previous events, so we'll know a little bit about how the session runs. But I'm absolutely delighted to welcome you all to our latest event, which is all about how AI is helping us to evolve our networks. So let me tell you a bit about what we've got in store for you today. So we've got a really, really great session for you planned, and we're going to be exploring all about how Gen AI is helping us to evolve our networks. We're going to touch on some of the industry research around Gen AI, and then we're going to go through our vision and mission and how we're implementing this. And also, we thought we'd share some really interesting information about our technical career path. And we're really lucky today that we've got somebody on the call who is on the career path itself. So it's a really, really fantastic opportunity to get some insights around this. And as per our other sessions, we're going to have opportunity to answer any questions you might have, whether they're about what it's like here to work at Vodafone or any of the topics you've heard today. So you'll see you've got a Q&A box. So if you pop your questions into the Q&A box at any time throughout the session today, and when we come to the end, we will get through as many of those as we can. So first things first, who have we got joining us today? So I'd like to introduce you to Simon Norton and Inez Matos. So Simon is the head of Digital Network and OSS Europe at Vodafone. He's got a really diverse background. So starting out in the defence industry and then later on consulting with Accenture on large-scale IT transformations. Not only that, Vodafone Simon's held senior roles in IT and business platforms, focusing on fixed connectivity products and OSS operations. And currently he leads a network IT division of over 500 people, and he's responsible for driving major programs like OSS simplification, generative AI solutions, and network test lab transformation. Simon specialises in AI, automation, advanced analytics, agile practices, and business transformation. So an absolute wealth of information. And then we've got Inez, and Inez is the senior manager of the data science and an AI team in digital networks. And as I touched on earlier, she's a level 5 expert in our technical career path in developing and implementing machine learning solutions. She leads innovative AI projects for Vodafone Networks and has over a decade of experience in data science and AI. Inez has developed and supervised deployment of AI models in production and establishing fully automated machine learning operations in the cloud. She's not only that, I mean, this is fantastic, but she's also currently driving the prototyping pillar of the Gen AI program for Vodafone Networks. So you can see we have got a wealth of experience, knowledge on the call today. So thank you both for joining us. I'm going to hand over to Simon and Inez, who are going to tell us more.
Thank you, Laura, for the wonderful introductions, and hello and good afternoon, everybody. So we're very excited to be delivering what is a real snapshot in terms of what we're doing with AI and generative AI to support the transformation of Vodafone's networks. And I'm delighted to be joined by the real star of the show here, Inez. What I would say before handing to Inez is that for those of you that have attended, industry events, conferences, etc., what you will have seen a lot of over the last year is a lot of customer-facing AI and generative AI technologies, which are hugely important, and you'll see that within our research in a few moments. But today we really want to switch gears and demonstrate what we're doing here at Vodafone and how we're using these technologies to transform the way that we deliver the network lifecycle. So hopefully it should be a bit of an interesting switch of gears from some of the Gen AI topics that you may have experienced previously. So Inez, over to you. Do you want to kick us off?
Thank you very much. So, Priam, I think we can go directly into the slides. And welcome, everybody. So I'm going to do a very brief introduction on artificial intelligence, which, of course, is the art of getting computers to do our work for us. And actually, this is absolutely not new. I'm not sure how much have you been into this topic, but actually, it was in the 1950s, so almost 75 years ago, that Alan Turing published his Turing test. How can we understand if we are facing an intelligence that is artificially? How can you be fooled into believing this is a person and not a computer? So as time has gone by, these things have changed a lot. Mostly the computing power has increased immensely and the data. Now now we have the World Wide Web. You have all the data of everyone to train, and the result of this computing power and this huge amounts of data is generative AI. And you can see now it's not only training to be more intelligent, but now you are generating new content. And this actually opens the door to a lot of different things. And this is something that is really going to change our lives. So if you don't know enough about it, you should try to get it on track, because this is coming your way, like it or not. And as you can see in the next slide, however, generative AI is not exactly the main focus of all the use cases. So actually, you already have machine learning models deployed. You have rule-based algorithms. You probably have a lot of knowledge already deployed. And this doesn't mean that Gen AI is coming and changing. What it actually means is that if you couple it with Gen AI, you're going to lower the learning curve. You're going to give access to data to people that previously didn't have because they didn't know code or how to develop. And the whole value that you really are unlocking is onto these hybrid use cases. And I'm going to pass back to Simon, where he's going to show you that research is exactly showing yes this.
Yeah, so thank you, Inez. I think that's a really important set of messages. And one of the things that we looked at extensively when we went through a very intense period just over kind of a year, 18 months ago, in terms of setting our strategy for generative AI for networks, it was we reached the realization that the way that we're going to unlock the maximum value for our customers and for Vodafone is by taking this hybrid approach. And you will see that seeded throughout our mission, vision, strategy that we will take you through shortly. If we could move on to the next slide, what I want to do before we dive in on the kind of Vodafone principles and strategy is just very briefly share with you one of the pieces of industry research, and we looked at many, that kind of inform the opportunity that we have within the telecommunications sector overall. And I think this really emphasizes what Inez was saying around the needs to make sure that we take an intelligent hybrid approach and we do not get completely carried away with what has been an enormous amount of hype linked to generative AI over the last year, 18 months. And we're very excited by the hype, but we're also clear-sighted around that we can get great value for our customers and business by not neglecting some of the more traditional methods. So this is a piece of research that we're flashing up on the screen from McKinsey, and it shows that the value opportunity for telco holistically is absolutely vast. So, the combined value is somewhere between 450 to 680 billion for our industry. Now, you can see on the graph on the left-hand side that the research backs up the position that we're taking, that a huge amount of that organizational value can be unlocked through more traditional advanced analytics, machine learning, deep learning methods. But generative AI then comes along and helps us to unlock further value, right? So another 60 to 100 billion of potential value across the industry, not just with operators, but with our OEMs, with our vendors, the entire ecosystem that we're working within. Now, in terms of where this is ultimately positioned for networks, it will come as no surprise to you that are experts in the topic or have been reading in recently that a huge amount of the total value that we can deliver within the industry is very much focused around customer service, marketing, and sales. And I'm sure there'll be other webinars from Vodafone promoting some of these topics, because Vodafone is doing some really, really great work across our commercial functions and our IT functions in terms of advancing that agenda. However, you can see from the network side of things, there is still significant value to be unlocked by intelligently deploying these technologies, really to support every way of how we deliver our network lifecycle. So everything from the way how we make investment decisions, where we invest for the best experience, right the way through to the way that we operate the network. And you can also see from this chart as well that there's perhaps an outsized focus from industry leaders in terms of how we can deploy this tech to ultimately improve the network, and driving better outcomes for our customers, enabling us to become more efficient, improve our bottom line, and indeed deliver top line growth. So I thought it was very interesting just to flash this up as a start, right? And the key takeaway here is Gen AI is extremely important. There is a huge value case attached for the industry and for networks, but it's very important that we don't neglect all of the goodness that we can get from the traditional methods as well, taking us back to that position where, and you'll see it as we go through this presentation, that in many cases it's hybrid use cases which are going to unlock the maximal value. Right, if we could move on now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through some of the key principles that we've set here within Vodafone that kind of govern our approach to the introduction of AI and generative AI solutions for networks, but indeed across the wider business as well. So we've established three, what I think are pretty easy and simple to understand principles around the way that we're doing this within Vodafone. So the first is we have decided at present not to develop our own LLM or foundation models. And instead, we are prioritizing our collaboration, our extensive collaborations with our vendor ecosystem and hyperscalers. And I'm sure if you guys have been watching the press, you will have seen recently a number of large announcements of our partnerships with both Microsoft and with Google. And indeed, as Inez will show you in a minute, it's not just about the two big hyperscalers. We have a very open ecosystem, which is the second principle. And we are absolutely of the mind that we want to avoid vendor lock-in and we want to promote innovation and interoperability via an open reference architecture. And then the third principle that we've set is we want to be the best in the industry when it comes to leveraging our hyperscalers and vendor partnerships. So as you will see, we've set very, very ambitious goals for network. We certainly don't want for ambition, but it's also vitally important that we work with some of the most innovative players across the globe to help our people learn, to help us learn, and also to innovate jointly to maximize the value outcome that we can deliver. So three simple principles. At present, we're not going down the route of building our own foundation models. As you will see, we are building an open ecosystem that gives us plenty of flexibility and avoids vendor lock-in. And then we want to be the best at leveraging all of our partnerships to make sure that we can bring all of that goodness to our customers. Inez, back to you. Can you take everybody through the reference architecture and how we're doing this?
Yes, so that's...
Oh, sorry. I'm one slide ahead. I do apologize. Before handing to Inez and talking about the reference architecture, what I want to do now is start taking things a little bit closer to home and take you through our vision for how we will deploy generative AI and AI technologies, back to the hybrid points, to support Vodafone networks. So we've set a very, very ambitious vision here, and we want to leverage Gen AI and AI capabilities to really revolutionize the way that we deliver the Vodafone network lifecycle, ultimately empowering us to deliver superior network performance, vitally enhance customer experiences so that we're the best in the market when it comes to CSAT, NPS scores, and to drive sustainable growth across the group. And as you can see here, really linking into that vision of revolutionizing the network lifecycle, we've set ourselves a series of missions. So starting right up front within the network lifecycle, we are building on a series of existing AI models that we've had in place for some years to really enhance the decision making of our CXOs around where we need to invest in our network to get not only the best commercial performance, but more importantly, the best results for our customers. So right at the front end, using AI to look at how we improve our investment decision making. We're using it then when we start to build and deploy and upgrade sites. We're using in particular AI vision and computer vision technologies to fundamentally revolutionize the way that we deploy and then accept our sites into production. These are labor intensive processes today, often generating many truck rolls from our field engineering teams. And utilizing these technologies, we can become more efficient, we can deliver better quality, and we can do so at a lower price point as well, ultimately speeding up the pace that we roll out the latest technologies, whether it's 5G standalone, Open RAN, those kind of things, again, with a focus on being able to get those technologies into the hands of our customers as quickly as possible. The next one is one that's particularly close to my heart, is we're deploying an extensive series of AI solutions to support the way that we are managing our energy. So I think, as many of you know, telco, and in particular network, is a huge consumer of energy. It's a key part of our Vodafone purpose and our green vision to become, net zero and lower our emissions over time. And actually, we can do some amazing things across the energy life cycle, as it were, from using AI to better improve our energy forecasting, right the way through to billing assurance, and with everything in between. And the in-between bit's the important part, and that's really focusing on how we can use AI to intelligently deploy energy saving features within our networks, ultimately to reduce our emissions and reduce the financial outlay in an inflationary world of energy at the moment as well. So it's very, very good for the bottom line. And then last but not least, in the final two missions, One of the things that we love about generative AI is that when we sit it on top of existing solutions that we've got, many of which are existing AI or machine learning solutions, it can lower the barrier of access to key network data and insights. And so one of the things that's got us and our optimizer community very, very excited is the power of natural language to SQL agents and the ability to interact with our very complex network data, spot new patterns, understand anomalies, and be able to ultimately put more power into the hands of our optimizers to optimize our network to deliver the best possible connectivity experience for our customers. So it's really, really cool what we're working on there. We've got a lot of ambition. And then last but not least, we've got AI operations. So fundamentally important, like any telecommunications operator, it's vital that we continue to drive down the number of P1, P0 incidents that we're having with our network. When incidents do happen, that we resolve them as quickly as possible to stop any impact to our customers, and ultimately to then support our field agents as well by putting more power and intelligence into their hands, that when they are having customer touch points, they resolve the customer issue and get it right first time. Very, very important for our customers who are often taking time out of their busy days when we do have to deploy a field agent to resolve an issue that they're having. So some really, really cool stuff around operations. And then last but not least, it would be very remiss of us, especially on a call like this, not to focus on the benefits that it brings to our workforce as well. So we're seeking to revolutionize our workforce productivity by providing easy access to comprehensive network data, network knowledge, through a series of AI tools. And ultimately, this removes barriers to getting the job done, it streamlines processes, and it fosters learning and innovation within our organization. And even with our early deployments of things like Microsoft Copilot, 365, GitHub Copilot, we are seeing some amazing feedback and incredible engagement from across the workforce. And this is really just the beginning. So a very, very important part of our strategy. Now I'll try again. Ines is going to take us through the reference architecture now and tell us a little bit more about how we're achieving this technically. So Ines, over to you.
So to actually build all the AI and all the solutions that we want to do, again, hybrid ones, you have to keep in mind that our data has a lot of private data and there's customer data. So we need to be very careful on the way we do need access to it. That's the only way we understand what is going on and we learn about it, but it has to be in a secure way. So what happens is that we've built this architecture of reference where all the AI tools that we're going to develop are going to develop exactly fitting into this architecture. You can see the small square there called Vodafone Data Ocean. There you should have access to all the data that we have at Vodafone. And you also see the tiny logo saying Google. As Simon was just saying, so Google is our partner and we have the data lakes in Google. However, you see the colorful boxes below. This is the access to the LLMs and to all the other AI vendors that we also have access to through this AI orchestration gateway. So for instance, you have your data, but you want to use a different model to classify it, ChatGPT on Microsoft, then yes, you can do that. Or you rather use the Anthropic models from AWS, you can also do that. So the idea is that we are not vendor locked, but we are locked into this kind of frame that is security first. So anything you do has to be secure and has to follow all Vodafone security guidelines and privacy, which is exactly what we get out of this. So we built this reference architecture to be sure that we can develop LLMs apps, but also the traditional. We're also doing that directly on Google. And also even more important is probably the scalable, is that now you have this and you have these tiny boxes of things that we've been doing through the years. And now we can, on a macro level, start escalating and start connecting all of them to actually bring these agents and this way to actually get to the network and help people get cross data, understand more about the information of what they are seeing, and in real time, the incidents on the network, and actually make better decisions out of it. And using this architecture, we are now going to show you our 3 big bets, and back to Simon, that we want to build on top of it.
Thank you, Ines. Some really, really important messages there around especially the safe and ethical use of AI, which absolutely runs through our core here at Vodafone as well. So the whole compliance architecture that we're putting around The technical architecture, which is here on the screen, is vitally important. And at the moment, as you're aware, there's quite a lot of regulatory change that's happening around us. And so all of this is designed with things like the EU AI Act in mind, local regulations in mind as well, so that we continue to be the number one trusted partner in terms of our customer data. So very, very important messages there. Thank you, Inez. Right, let's move on and have a little look at the big bets that we're setting for networks. So you will have to forgive me. For me to do this justice, it can often take me 2 hours because they're deep and they're quite multifaceted. So I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour today, really emphasizing that point within our vision around how we're deploying the technology to support all aspects of the network lifecycle. So the first that we're terming Vodafone Intelligent Network Assistants are a series of multi-agent, initially co-pilots that we're building to support various network processes, but ultimately we then seek for them to become closed loop agents. So we start to progressively move the human out of the loop and deliver an even more automated set of outcomes across our business. We've got significant ambition here, and we're in the process at the moment of building a series of prototypes and indeed minimum viable products across some of the following areas. So in the energy space, which I spoke about within the mission, we are building a suite of new capabilities to support energy management of the network. Everything from our energy forecasting up front, so that we're making better decisions and we're having to buy less energy on the spot market, which is prone to the vagaries of the market pricing on that day, right the way through to using generative AI to improve our billing assurance. So understanding really how, what we're being billed by our energy providers, checking against our own smart meter usage, and then automating that whole chain using AI to be able to recover where we are being overbilled. And then, as I already touched upon in the energy space, one of the very exciting areas is how we can start to use more machine learning and generative AI, pairing this with the excellent energy saving features that we get from our OEMs to be able to more dynamically apply network energy saving features on our networks, maximizing customer experience by not powering down sites when there's high traffic or volume going through them, but also being able to maximize our energy savings. And through trials, we've already seen up to double the energy saving by applying AI into these journeys that we would otherwise get from just the usual configuration of these features. Other assistants that we're building, and as I said, they're broad and varied. We're building assistants to support with a very complex business of network contract management, especially around our site leases, our lease-lined contracts, and there's significant value for us to be had there. And I think we all understand the transformative power of generative AI within the legal industry. We're applying that in a slice within networks. And then we're building lots of assistance at the moment to support network optimizers and network quality professionals, initially lowering the barrier to access to complex network data insights, but then progressively, as I've said, starting to build out multi-agent architecture where we're able to deliver closed loop journeys on the network, so fully automated journeys. Moving to the next big bet, next generation network investment. Well, I touched upon this in the mission, but this is all about being able to bring together and leveraging that architecture that Inez just described to bring together a series of network telemetry data feeds, crowdsource feeds, including benchmarking of our performance against our competitors with commercial and financial data. And then some very clever AI algorithms are sat behind this, which enable us to do very, very advanced scenario planning so that we can maximize not only the return on investment in terms of our network upgrades and new site deployments, but also pinpoint areas perhaps of poor performance from a customer experience perspective and take very targeted interventions. So this is a super, super powerful capability. In monetary terms, it's worth a lot because obviously an operator like Vodafone at our scale, we are investing billions annually in our networks, but it's vitally important that we bring this intelligence to really maximize the return on those investments, maximize the customer experience off the back of those investments as well. So very, very excited about this one. And then last but not least, we have got the whole spectrum of what we term zero-touch operations capabilities. AI operations is a term that you might also want to apply to this. And I've touched upon this, but we've got already a number of award-winning, multi-award-winning indeed, AI operations solutions which we've delivered within Vodafone, and Inez has been one of the lead architects of them. And we're very excited now about introducing generative AI into those journeys to focus in areas like complex incident management and troubleshooting that we haven't been able to automate, where we co-pilot the human with the latest picture of network data, latest knowledge base from support and maintenance guides, information from problem and incident repositories around how we've solved similar incidents in the past, ultimately crunching down that time that it takes for us to resolve the incident, right the way through to supporting change management. So using generative AI as a second pair of eyes to eliminate P1 or P0 incidents that are caused through change, right the way through to supporting our field engineering teams by building out a series of apps to put the power of generative AI into their hands, so they have got the best possible information and indeed recommendations for how we fix customer issues first time. So as you can see, very, very ambitious set of use cases. There's more than 3 in reality. We like to call these kind of multifaceted big bets, but this is our particular focus area at the moment. And if we achieve this, we will unlock really significant economic value for Vodafone as an overall business. The numbers are very, very large, but as I keep emphasizing, even more importantly, we will be able to better serve and better understand our customers, improving the network and resolving issues more quickly when they are happening for our customers as well. So super, super important. Right, can we move on to the next? Right, I'm going to shut up now and let you listen to the real superstar who's going to start talking in more technical terms about some of the stuff that we're doing. So Ines, please take us through.
Yes, so the fun part, what are we actually doing at Vodafone? So very briefly, we have a lot of different AI products, and I'm not going to deep dive in all of these. I just wanted you to know, for instance, if you're out there and you are a machine learning engineer, I'm sure you have a bright future. Please apply, because we are doing machine learning operations, but now with Gen AI, this has become way, way harder. So we know when we deploy a model, how to monitor, how to retrain automatically, but now with Gen AI, you know that you're trying to avoid hallucinations, but it will still hallucinate. It will be quite hard to monitor. And I'm seeing a lot of work needing to be done in machine learning operations in the future. We also do traditional unsupervised learning like clustering. We used very recently a dynamic time warping technique to actually cluster thousands of antennas according to the mobile traffic. And we do forecasting, of course. Actually, one of the projects that the team enjoyed the most was actually a project with 72 predictive models that we had to build together. But what we're talking about here is natural language models. So Priyam, if you could please change to the next one. So we actually do a lot of classifiers on language models. The 2 on top that you are seeing are part of the zero-touch operations. Just to give you a brief overview of what is happening is that we have some parts of the network that are receiving natural text. So a ticket, someone describes what is the incident. And since you can write anything that you want, even with errors and different languages, it's very hard for a machine to come and understand exactly what is going on. So we built these 2 classifiers that are basically reading what the machine cannot read and then label it into a way that we can continue processing and finish these end-to-end completely automated pipelines treating alarms and tickets. These have been in production for some time, and these are part of some of the awards that we won. But they are like around 40 hours of automation. But of course, now the stars are the ones on bottom, is that we are trying to develop some Gen AI on top of it. The one on the left, the knowledge database, is part of the Vodafone Intelligence Network Assistant that Simon has just told you. I'm going to show you a very brief demo of that one. And the one on the right is part of the next generation network investments, which I also have a demo. So please, Priyam, for the next one. So this is a retrieval augmented generation, a RAG example. You can press play if you want. So what happens is that we have all our data in Confluence, but since the data has been got together for a very long time, we have a lot of documents saying the same thing. And sometimes we only want to find the most recent one. We only want to search for the most recent information. As you can see there, it got you like 5 different documents, but only the first 2 were important to my search. And I did this in seconds here. In reality, if I had to go to Confluence, I would probably land on the wrong page. I didn't realize they were duplicated. I would have a lot of issues, and this makes my life at least half as fast, but also on the accuracy part. I could be reading the wrong text because it's very similar, and I may not have gone to the most recent or to the newest ticket that I had in mind. And using this kind of agent that is bringing me the documentation and also showing where it is, and I can go there and check what is going on and maybe delete the page, maybe update the page, is so much faster than me moving through the different spaces, whether it is on the German one, maybe it's the Portugal one, maybe it's this has increased and made our lives way easier. And as you can see, you can also rename the chat. You can keep some context and what you would expect out of a chat. Please keep in mind, this is a prototype, okay? So this is not live yet. We're still testing it. And the next one, the network investment. If you could move to the next slide, please. Thank you very much. So before just pressing play, just one thing. This one is really focused on, suppose you have money to put on the network, and how would you decide where to put this money? Would it be just like all the antennas that are malfunctioning? Or maybe you know, for instance, that there is a new development in your area and the houses are super expensive, and maybe those are the clients you want. Or maybe there's a school nearby and those are future clients. So you have so many different ways to think about on how you want to invest. And you need way more data than just the data that you may have access on day to day. So please, Priam, now we can press play. The idea of these agents is to bring you all the data that you may need to decide how you want to do this. How do I want to invest the money that I have? Is it on congested cells? Is it a particular region? How can I cross these different data? And how do I understand what is the result? What is the forecasted of this investment in the network? And it's really hard to do if you are just going to each database one by one, trying to figure out what is going on, when you can actually get all the data and even get recommendations from the Gen AI model behind it. Not only with you, you can go back and forth with recommendations and try to understand where you should invest in the network. And this is exactly the one that you are seeing here. They are both working in memory, and again, they are prototypes. So I hope you enjoyed the demos.
Thank you,
Simon
Inez.
is going to close.
And just before I close with key takeaways, what I want to say is that to put into context for you the power of, well, both use cases, but in particular next generation network investment, where we have deployed this already within our Turkey market, and we're now putting the generative AI engine on top. We have seen really significant improvements in terms of customer feedback through our smarter investments, right? So really powerful from a customer experience perspective as well, very much linking into our customer vision. Right. I'm sure we're probably overrunning, so I'm going to wrap up fairly quickly before handing to the next section. So just a few key takeaways for all of you. We've seen the industry perspectives on AI, in particular for telecommunications. We are very clear that it's a combination of traditional AI methods plus generative AI, which is going to unlock maximum value for us. And you see how our strategy seeds that thinking throughout. We've set ourselves a hugely ambitious mission and vision for generative AI, focusing on how we use the technologies to transform all aspects of the network lifecycle. From a network operations perspective and an AI operations perspective, we are positioning ourselves as using the technology to really focus on all aspects of how we deliver network operations to our customers, but also being an absolute paragon when it comes to regulatory compliance and safe and ethical AI considerations. So both vitally important. And then last but not least, and Laura's going to come on and talk a little bit more about this in a moment, we couldn't do any of this without our amazing people. So you've seen today one of them, Inez, absolute superstar in the AI space. But Vodafone's been making a huge amount of investment over the last few years, I should say, in our software engineering, data science, AI engineering, data engineering capabilities. And our desire, just as you've seen, is to continue building a significant number of these solutions in-house, as well as leveraging our vendor ecosystem. So hopefully that was useful for you. Laura, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Simon and Inez. And I have to say, astounding the amount of work that's happening across networks. I'm not technical at all, so it blows my mind just seeing some of this. Just a reminder, any questions, please pop them into the little Q&A button and we will get through as many as we can at the end. But before we go through that, I just want to share with you a little bit more about our technical career path. If we could just pop on to the next slide, please. So, as Simon mentioned, Vodafone is amazing. There are so many opportunities to grow and lots of different ways. And we really encourage people to own their own career path. And we know that that looks different for different people. I mean, careers often aren't linear. You may have heard of the squiggly career. People might want to move sideways. They might want to widen their knowledge or perhaps have that deeper expertise. And to say, we know that different things are valuable for different people. So this is really why we launched our technical career path. Recognizing and rewarding technical skill is really at the heart of it, and it encourages our people to continue to develop their technical skills. And you can see just from today why that is so important, and it offers a really well-defined framework. And what it does is, well, it moves away from having to step into that traditional people management and leadership role in order to progress. And our people told us there are, we want that technical progression. We don't always want to go into the people management. And alongside being the best in the business, our experts form a community that really have direct input into our technology strategy and play a massive role in our success. So you can see, what an impact that has on Vodafone and the business. If we can move to the next slide, please. So there are 7 levels to the programme. So there's lots of scope and lots of space, as I say, for our people to develop and grow. And the pathway is focused on skills across delivery, domain expertise, problem solving, communication and leadership. And to qualify as an accredited technical expert in levels 4 to 7, individuals have to go through a series of peer and panel reviews to demonstrate how they go beyond what's required of their role today. And as I say, really help shape the future direction of Vodafone and the wider industry. And as we mentioned earlier, Inez has recently achieved her level 5, and not only that, but Simon sits on the panel to support with the accreditation of our people. So we've got 2 people on the call today that have got that expertise in the technical career path and the value they've seen from it. So Simon and Inez, can I just invite you to share your thoughts on both sitting on the panel but also being, going through the process as well. Simon, could we start with you?
Yes, no problem at all. So yeah, as you've said, I've had the privilege of being not only a sponsor. I sponsored Inez's candidacy, but have also sat on the panel. And I think this is an excellent innovation that we've put in from a people perspective over the last few years. But previously, and I think as many technologists and engineers know, it's pursuing a purely managerial career path is not always the best way to maximize what the individual wants and also the career path that they see. And I think this introduction really gives our very best people technically a different set of options and an ability to be able to move through the ranks and develop their career in different ways to the more traditional managerial paths. And I think that's just vital in terms of us being able to not only attract, but also then retain some of the very best talents. So, and then from an experience perspective, I think it's a very rigorous process. And I think we make no apology about that. It's very important that we properly understand and test the candidacies of the individuals. But as I'm sure Inez will attest to in a minute, it also gives the most wonderful opportunity for the candidates to get a lot of face time and a lot of visibility with some of the most senior technology, senior leaders within Vodafone Technology. So as well as, getting the various badges as you go through the career path and the incentives that come with them, it's also a phenomenal method of being able to build your network across different areas of Vodafone Technology that historically our people may not have had access to. So I'm an enormous supporter and advocate and encourage all of my team members who don't want to go on the managerial path to consider this as an option.
Fantastic. So, and Inez, Simon, you just touched on that it's, quite a robust process. So what was your experience of it, Inez?
It is a robust project. I can say it took me some time to actually gather all the documentation. to go through. Actually, let me just say that from 1 to 3, you really don't need to go through this path on the documentation and proving yourself. If you are a data engineer, if you are a data scientist software, then you are already from 1 to 3 put into the technical career if you're a technical person. It's for the 4th to the 7th that you really go through a process that gets worse as it goes up. But the reason is exactly like Simon was saying, like if you are going to be one of these people and you're going to represent your knowledge, you should prove yourself and should prove that you really are at that level. So it does make sense. Actually, something probably Simon doesn't remember saying this to me when I joined Vodafone, but he was saying something along the lines of, just wonder if you would ask Cristiano Ronaldo to be good as a goalkeeper, because he was missing on that part of his life. And goals, well, it's interesting to set goals, but actually you should be good at everything. And I felt it really deeply because I didn't want to go to the manager part, and I didn't want to develop that much of myself. Is my real value is on the technical part. And I saw it, no, yes, I need to stay in the technical. This is where I deliver more value. This is how I can grow, and I don't need to leave Vodafone for this. So I'm really pleased about the technical career, because it really lets you develop what you're good at and how you bring value to the company. And yes, we had calls with the CTO and we got to talk face to face, and they were very open. We could complain and we could thank to them. And even among us, we now have meetings on L4s and L5s, and we can basically tell people what we can help them with or what we've been feeling, or we remember someone that was doing something. It's been very good because it's a very big company. It's been very good to know other people and to actually share experience and help among the community.
Ah, fantastic. And I say, what an amazing opportunity for those people that don't want to take the traditional career route. Congratulations on level 5. So is it level 6 and level 7 next for you as well? Are you?
Yeah, they start talking about level 6. I just want to hibernate.
Fantastic. Thank you both for sharing. If we could just move on to the next slide, I think you've touched on some of this as well. There are lots of benefits for those that are participating on the technical career path. And as you've just touched on this, there's you become a member of an expert community where you can learn and engage with your peers. And I think that co-creation and sharing is really, really important. Based on those individual circumstances, you get a monthly cash allowance on level 4 and above. Simon, you touched on this. Everybody gets a technical expert role title and a digital badge issued through Credly, and this really helps promote your level of expertise. And my gosh, it sounds like you have all really earned it as well. And you get access to exclusive events to attend and represent Vodafone as a brand ambassador. So lots and lots of benefits that come with being on the technical career path. I say it's a wonderful opportunity, and I say congratulations, Inez. But it's fantastic. So that kind of just touches on our technical career path. We're going to move into the Q&A section now. So I say please feel free to pop your questions into the Q&A box, and I will start from the top. So how do you manage and analyze the vast amounts of data generated by Gen AI? And look, we've got a data ocean, haven't we? So that sounds pretty big to me.
2.5 petabytes of network data in there at the moment. So yeah, significant amounts. Inez, do you want to take this one?
So actually, most of the data, exactly like Simon was saying, that we have is not generated by Gen AI. So we have data that is coming from our networks, that is coming from our customers, and the Gen AI is just like the tip on the bridge of the prototyping that we are doing. So we are using generative AI as in the documentation that I showed you, where we get all the documentation and it's helping summarize and finding our data. But at the moment, and I'm not sure if I'm misunderstanding or not, at the moment, we are not generating data from Gen AI beyond these prototyping solutions. So we do not have that vast amounts of data being generated by Gen AI.
Yeah, and if I just build on what Inez is saying as well, one of the things we're particularly proud of here at Vodafone is, I think we made a very prescient set of decisions 4 or 5 years ago to really move away, and we're not just in networks, but I'm talking across the business, from what was traditionally a series of quite siloed big data and BI platforms, and start to unify our organizational data in the Google Cloud platform. What that's enabled us to do is that's enabled us to get a real head start when it comes to generative AI, that we're not having to do significant amounts of underlying transformation in our ecosystem before we can get going delivering some of these exciting use cases. So I think that was an excellent strategic decision and investment that we made. And I think just building a little further, some of the challenges that we have is this across Vodafone's all our European market footprint, we have literally thousands of underlying network data sources. And one of the things that I would emphasize here as well is and I kind of call this the unsexy stuff, right? We've spoken a lot about the sexy stuff today, but there's a lot of hard yards that need to be done before you get there. And the huge investment that we've made in what is the most ambitious program of OSS change ever in Vodafone's history, that we call OSS simplification and modernization, what that's enabled us to do is dramatically, in many cases, unify, or in other cases, simply simplify the number of data sources that we would need to integrate into the cloud to then start building on these use cases. So key takeaway for you guys on this question is it's complex. You need to get your data management strategy correct. And you also need to sweat the hard yards when it comes to really simplifying the underlying OSS and data sources, which ultimately provide the oil, if we want to put it that way, that powers the generative AI and indeed AI engines.
Lovely, thank you. And actually, talking about, you said about the unsexy stuff, there's a question here. You talked about some of the challenges, but what are the biggest challenges that Vodafone faces in integrating AI into its network operations?
Well, I'll come from a business perspective, then I'll ask Ines to come in and maybe talk a little bit technically. So we've touched a lot upon Vodafone's absolute steadfast commitment to being, an absolute trusted operator when it comes to compliance with safe, ethical AI, the new regulations. But undoubtedly, we've got a regulatory situation which is changing and shifting underneath our feet as regulatory bodies and governmental bodies, including the EU, are really figuring out how do they regulate this stuff. So I think the shifting sands of regulation and compliance is undoubtedly a challenge. It's a challenge I think that we're doing quite well with here at Vodafone, but we need to continually find the balance between the utmost standards of controls, risk management and compliance with speed and agility. I think that's something that most European operators are probably experiencing as well. We have significant upskilling journeys that our teams need to go on. We've got fantastic engineers, but at the moment, in many cases, because of the relative newness of the technology, there's a lot of learning that needs to be done and coming up that technology maturity curve. That's why we work so closely with some of the best in the business that help us in that space. And then I think third and finally, there's lots of very cool stuff that we can do with generative AI, and you've seen some of that today, but really linking it in and understanding how we extract either financial value or value for our customers, and we get that chain of causation between an AI solution being introduced, but then ultimately delivering the business and the transformation outcomes that we want. That's quite challenging because some of the stuff that we're doing is bleeding edge, and therefore we need to be very, very careful in terms of, building exciting enough business cases to make sure that we get the investment flowing in, but also not being too starry-eyed and overcommitting ourselves as we go through the early stages of prototyping and testing. So they're probably three that I would highlight. Ines, do you want to come from a technical standpoint?
Yeah, so of course, all of this that we are building is built on our data and the way that we get the data. And of course, we also have challenges on the quality of data. So like I was just telling you regarding the documentation, we sometimes have documentation that has not been updated, that is not trustworthy. And of course, Gen AI doesn't know this. They're going to get the context, and sometimes you have really good answers and sometimes you don't because the quality of the underlying data is not as good. And then also on top is the fact that there's something new. I'm not even going to say every day, is like every hour. And of course, not everyone can just keep up. It's just like, I want to try that. I want to try that. It's like, we need sometimes to calm down and go like, you have these tools, try and build something. And then we try to add all the new things that are coming and try to keep up, but not keeping up every time I'm going to change direction and do something different. And I understand the enthusiasm, but at the same time, we need to focus. And sometimes we're not focusing. I find that a bit challenging.
And I think this is a truly excellent point because and we've had to strike as we've been setting strategy and as we've been kind of, standing up our initial prototyping and then moving into our productization phase, which is where the kind of transition we're making at the moment. We talk a huge amount about organizational discipline. We have 13,000 people in the network organization, amazing people, I might add as well, but they're all engineers. Many, well, not all, but many of them are engineers. And so everybody is very enthusiastic and wants to play with and experiment with the tech. And one of the things that we seek to guard against is, or we want that enthusiasm and we want all of that goodness coming from the workforce. But if we try to work on 100 things simultaneously, it's unlikely that we're going to unlock the type of organizational value that we're seeking to unlock, and customer value. So that's why we've set the 3 focus big bets. Our executive committee are very happy with them. And then it's very important that we guard against things like AI sprawl or overlapping solutions and those kind of things, which in any large corporates is a risk. So that's a very, very important part, but it is a challenge of balancing enthusiasm with discipline and control.
Yeah, it sounds like it's all very fast moving, so it would be quite easy, wouldn't it, to get
caught
up in the hype, so to speak, and then you're like on to the next new shiny thing. And like you say, it's that balance. So there's some of the challenges. So how does Vodafone measure the success of AI-driven network optimizations? Success lie.
So so we've got a range of different quantitative financial-based KPIs and qualitative KPIs as well. So specifically around network optimization, one of the big things that we seek to achieve at the moment is how do we use Gen AI to support a wider part of Vodafone strategy. So for any of you that are familiar with our back to basics strategy, customer, simplicity and growth, right? Now, the optimization side of things is very much focused on the customer angle, but it also supports bottom line efficiency through the energy saving measures, which I've already spoken about. And so the big thing that we're seeking to do, especially at the moment, there are many KPIs, but one that I'd highlight in response to this question is we have got a huge drive at the moment to understand where we have deep detractors with their Vodafone services, and then from a network perspective, where deep detraction in the NPS surveys is attributable to the network. A deep detractor is a score of 1 or 2 on an NPS survey. So what AI is helping us to do is it's helping us to pinpoint far more accurately where a customer is a detractor driven by their network experience. And I think, as everybody knows, you don't become a detractor necessarily through a singular event. It can often be a chain of events that happens from your initial sales journey right the way through to the performance of the network, can be influenced by your contact center engagements. And so what we're seeking to do here is we're looking to deliver massive improvements in terms of reducing the number of deep detractors, using AI to understand what the very best experience looks like in terms of those people that have a score of 8, 9, 10, and then moving the 1s and 2s higher up. So that's a really tangible outcome. And we're making great progress on that front, I would add as well. Moving things a little bit internally on a KPI perspective, ultimately what we want to do is we want to make our great optimizer community more productive. Right. So one of the key things that we look at is the number of sites assigned to an optimizer, right? And we have got ambitions to be able to double the number of sites that a single optimizer can look after simply by putting more, AI, Gen AI capabilities into their hands. So there are a couple. There's many other KPIs that sit within that space as well, but that's a couple of the key KPIs that we would look at around deep detraction, but then also improving workforce productivity, enabling us to do significantly more with the same.
Lovely. That segues us quite nicely into another question. So how can AI be used for predicted network outages, and if closed loop automation can be imposed to minimize the impact for faults? Do you have a view on CMDB correlation with CRQ, WO, KPI indexing to generate advanced KPI anomaly? I'm deeply untechnical, so I hope that makes sense to you.
I think we'll hand that one to Ines.
So yeah, thank you. So the first part I can actually answer very quickly because we are doing this. So we are predicting network outages actually in 2 ways. We're going to say, like, if today at 3 p.m. we have this number of sites down, what is going to happen about this? How many customers are affected? Where they are? Who they are? What is happening? The predicting the outages, like you're going to say that a storm is coming. We are not doing that. So that is not something that is actually, we tried, but it's very, very hard to predict. It's a bit like the stock market. You never know if it's going to hit exactly as it was supposed to or not. So we know that when something happens to our network, what is the problem? But we cannot tell you that in 3 months on a Wednesday at 3 a.m. there's going to be a problem. No. However, we are very good with planning our network incidents, not incidents, sorry, the planned works, not the incidents. Please don't say the incidents.
No, we don't plan incidents.
So the planned works, because of course our customers will be impacted by this planned work. So we always try to do them when there is the less outages or the less problems to our clients. We also use AI for this. We have these forecast models that help us choose the times when this happens. The other ones, do you have a view on CMDB correlation? I actually don't know that one. I don't know, Simon, if you understand that one.
Yeah, well, I do. Yes. So I think on CMDB, that's exceptionally important for certain use cases. But when it comes to the AI op use cases, that there's a more important underlying technology that we use in order to be able to determine, build our models, classify, detect incidents, and then automatically resolve them. And that is the use of our federated inventory solutions and then topology, graph-based topology that we build on top, which is a vital enabler in order to be able to pinpoint, especially the more complex incidents that are happening, and then have AI and machine learning models make sense of what's happening in terms of the alarms and events that we're seeing take place on the network, detect the incident, triage what the root cause looks like, and then trigger a series of automation engines, which then resolve, or the intent is to resolve wherever possible the incident remotely. What I would say is in the solutions that we've deployed in this space, using the kind of technology spectrum of traditional underlying fault management, federated inventory, ITSM systems, then the cloud analytics AI layer and automation engine, which is what we have in place, we've seen some absolutely phenomenal results. So things like mean time to detect an incident coming down or improving by up to 95%. Time, especially if we need to dispatch a field engineer, the time between incident detection and dispatch of a field engineer, again, improving by more than 90%. So these are massive, massive gains that we've been making relative to kind of more traditional 20th century human-based network monitoring and ticket handling type activities.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much. We are pretty much out of time. I'm just going to see if we can do two very short, sharp, quick fire questions. So what is the average time to get to level 4 plus?
Well, I can say my time was not a very good time. It took me 1 year, but it was because I had my team increased to double its size at the same time.
Okay.
So yes.
So the 1 year is entirely to blame from me. We unified our network data science teams, and we put rather a lot of work across Inez's desk to make sure that we had a single cohesive data science unit across networks. But typically it would take less than 1 year if you can dedicate the time. But look, life happens in between, and other priorities happen while you're working as well. And Inez, you got a great result at the end of it.
Exactly. So, and it helped a lot because even while you are doing this, you are also contacting other people and you start remembering things that you didn't put there initially, and it all makes up to your profile and what you've done so far. So in the end, it just went perfectly, I have to say. So, but yeah, I think you are going to expect 6 months, not the writing, but the writing, getting the reviewers, going back to rewrite and then send the last version. I would say that is to be expected.
So 6 months to a year, give or take. And there's another one, how to apply if one is interested in joining Vodafone. If you want to hear more about life at Vodafone, the amazing things our teams get up to, we've got lots of social media channels. So you can see here, we've got LinkedIn, we've got our Instagram page as well. So please do join us on our social media channels and at Vodafone Careers on Facebook. If you want to see the latest vacancies, careers.vodafone.com. To the person who posted that question, you can find all of our careers on there. Like I say, lots going on the social media pages, so please do join. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining on the call. I hope you've all come away and learned something today. For me, it's been, again, I do these calls and I learn so much of the amazing thing that is happening across networks. It's I'm gobsmacked every time I hear from our teams about all the work that's happening.
And thank you for having us along. It's been a pleasure. And what I would say as well, if you are interested in particular around a career in data science, AI, data engineering, software engineering on the network side of things, feel free to get in touch with me via my LinkedIn channel. And Inez, I think we could probably say the same for yourself as well.
Exactly the same. Yeah, exactly the same. Machine learning engineers as well, please.
Sorry.
You heard it here. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your day.